One subject in biblical theology that I find very interesting is the theme of the non-Israelite nations. It appears almost at the beginning in Genesis 12, when Abraham is called and elected to, among other things, serve as a channel of blessing for the nations, and it runs all the way through Revelation 21 and 22. So it's a foundational theme. It's connected directly to a covenant, a major covenant, so it's clearly important. On the other hand, it's also a diverse theme with lots of unexpected twists and turns. So once Abraham is called and made a means of blessing the nations, we find Joseph, for example, later in Genesis, serving, in fact, as a means of blessing the nations by preserving them during famine. In Exodus, however, we find the same nation, Egypt, turning against Israel, oppressing them, and God having to deliver them, lest they be exterminated. We move forward to Sinai. We see, again, God calling Israel to be a priestly nation. That means to serving his purposes of making himself known to the nations. But that doesn't go terribly well if you're thinking of the golden calf, for example, in that same passage. Or once Israel settles in Canaan, their lifestyle becomes less and less distinctive. Apart from the interesting episode here and there, the inclusion of Rahab and her family, for example. But even after kind of a high point with Solomon, we're left with a divided kingdom, no nations coming to the temple as Solomon had anticipated, unless we mention Naaman, who didn't quite make it there. So it's a theme that is diverse, shows lots of development, twists and turns, and leaves you almost with a sense of things having stalled, unless you account for Jonah, who makes it as far as Nineveh, announces its destruction and so on, against his will. Until, that is, Isaiah's servant appears on the stage. At that point, it's clear that God's plan for the nations has not faltered and will be fulfilled by his servant. So that's where the New Testament picks up, one of the ways that it picks up in terms of fulfillment. Acts makes a great deal of the inclusion of non-Israelites, of Gentiles, if you will, in the church, whether that requires circumcision or so or not. So as of chapter 13 in Acts, we see this turn to the Gentiles. The theme develops from there until the new heavens and the new earth. So it's highly diverse, it's dynamic, it goes interesting places, it includes some surprises. So it's a theme that I find interesting. I've written some on it. I want to write more, want to learn more, because it's essential to the church's mission, and especially for those of us who have been grafted on as non-Israelites into God's plan of salvation.